Have you ever imagined reaching such a high level of discipline that your previous self would become unrecognizable? That is the transformation you are about to discover. Miyamoto Musashi, the greatest samurai philosopher in history, achieved this level of excellence, and today we are going to learn how. In his book, The Book of Five Rings, he shares 5 powerful principles to transform your life and take you from a state of weakness to an unshakable state. By the end of this video, you will know how to apply these principles and develop a level of discipline beyond anything you ever thought possible. Let's begin our journey with the first principle, the Earth Ring. This principle reveals where you truly stand. Ready? The Earth Ring teaches brutal self-assessment. Did you know most people believe they're extremely productive, but are actually just keeping themselves busy? Musashi believed that true discipline begins with an honest evaluation of how you're really spending your time. He said, "The way of the warrior is the dual way of the pen and the sword." In other words, it's not enough to be physically strong. You must also be mentally sharp. And to be truly disciplined, you must know exactly where you stand before you begin the journey. After defeating his greatest enemy, Sasaki Kojiro, Musashi did not celebrate. Instead, he isolated himself for 2 years in a cave to study his own weaknesses. This shows the power of introspection. Even the most skilled victor must examine himself with brutal honesty. Let's translate that into today's world. Imagine a person who thinks they're very productive. Let's call him Gohan. He wakes up tired, grabs his phone, and starts checking emails while still in bed. He thinks he's starting the day being productive, but in reality, he's already distracting himself. Throughout the day, Gohan jumps from task to task, goes to work late, and loses focus constantly. When he gets home, he feels exhausted from all the work, yet has no real results to show. Now Gohan decides to track every minute. He discovers he spent 6 hours on his phone, 2 hours actually working with focus, and 8 hours on meaningless tasks, simply filling time. What does the Earth Ring teach us? Know every tiny detail of your life, but also the bigger picture. Musashi warns us that most people have no idea where they are, and thus they are far from being productive. The first step toward discipline is honesty with yourself. And when Gohan faces the truth about his own routine, he realizes the problem isn't a lack of time, it's a lack of focus. He understands he doesn't need more hours in the day, he needs to use the hours he already has. Now that you've seen the truth, reality begins to reveal itself more clearly. The Water Ring teaches how to act when reality begins to push back. Let's return to Gohan's story. He has just discovered his lack of productivity and decides to take drastic action. He creates the perfect plan. Wake up at 4 in the morning, train for 2 hours, work intensely for 8 hours, take cold showers, meditate, and read every day. Sounds like a warrior's plan, right? But on the very first day, he quits before 6 a.m. This is where the teaching of the Water Ring, one of Musashi's deepest principles, comes in. He wrote, "Water takes the shape of its container." This doesn't mean being flexible in a weak sense, but rather stopping the fight against reality with unrealistic plans. Adaptation is the true path. Did you know that in the first 20 duels of his career, Musashi never used the same weapon twice? He used different swords, spears, staffs, and even his bare hands. He knew that to win, he needed to adapt to what the enemy offered, instead of relying on a single rigid strategy. Gohan's mistake is the same one many people make. Upon seeing his weaknesses, he creates an impossible routine. Reality, with all its distractions, knocks him down. But the key is not to insist on a rigid plan. The key is flexibility and adaptation. Gohan understands this. Instead of waking up at 4, he starts by waking up 30 minutes earlier. Instead of training for 2 hours, he does 10 push-ups. Instead of trying to work 8 focused hours, he starts with 25 minutes. It may seem ridiculous, but he's beginning. And that's how discipline is built. In just 2 weeks, Gohan can already do 70 push-ups and 175 minutes of real work, without missing a single day. The water ring teaches us that true discipline doesn't come from heroic efforts, but from small daily victories repeated consistently. Now that Gohan begins to see progress, he encounters a new challenge: comparison. He sees other people who are stronger, wealthier, faster, and feels a sense of anger rise within him. Why am I not like them? He begins to feel inadequate, and the discipline he was building starts to fade. This is the fire ring in action. Musashi knew the greatest enemy wasn't the external opponent, but the internal battle. In his Dokudo, he wrote, "Do not envy the good or evil of others." This wasn't moral advice, it was a lesson in efficiency. Comparison is energy waste. When you compare yourself to others, you drain the energy you could have used to improve. Gohan learns this the hard way. Instead of blaming or belittling himself, he begins turning his anger into fuel to improve even more. Instead of thinking, "I'm pathetic," he thinks, "I refuse to stay like this." He uses frustration as motivation. Every time he feels irritated about something he did or didn't do, he transforms that emotion into action. Today I did 30 push-ups, but tomorrow I'll do 35. I spent too much time on my phone, so tomorrow it stays in another room. I didn't prep my meal today, so tomorrow I'll do it before leaving the house. Musashi knew that to defeat your weaknesses, physical effort alone is not enough. The secret is using your internal fire, your anger, your frustration, your emotion, to create movement and results. For Gohan, comparing himself to others became fuel for progress, and he used the emotion of anger to focus even more on his own path. True transformation begins when you start using your emotions as tools for growth, instead of letting them destroy your discipline. After months of progress, Gohan finds himself in a common situation for anyone who begins mastering their habits. He starts believing he already knows everything. He relaxes, thinking he has reached a high level, and that's when the wind ring comes into play. Musashi, even after 60 victories, would say, "I am still a learner." He knew a true warrior never considers himself a master. The wind ring teaches that after reaching a certain level of skill, the biggest challenge is maintaining humility and consistency. Gohan begins to relax, thinking he has conquered discipline, but soon discovers that this is one of the greatest mistakes anyone practicing any skill can make. The true master is the one who, even after great achievements, still seeks to learn from the best. Gohan begins asking himself, "I'm good, but is there someone who can teach me more? Is there something I still don't know?" The wind ring reminds us that even when we become good at something, true discipline lies in continuing to learn and never becoming complacent. You must feel small, always seeking more, seeking those who are more experienced and wiser. Gohan starts seeking every month to learn something new from people who are better than he is in some area. He doesn't limit himself to what he already knows. He continues to pursue growth with the humility of an eternal student. This is the true challenge of the advanced practitioner, staying humble and always seeking evolution. After 6 months, Gohan finally realizes something devastating. This will never get easy. He expected that over time, the process of disciplining himself would become natural, effortless. But reality is very different. He discovers that deep down, the struggle never ends. The pursuit of discipline and excellence is an endless path, and this is the great teaching of the Void Ring. Musashi taught that true emptiness is not frustration or surrender, but acceptance. He wrote, "When you accept everything exactly as it is, you transcend reality." Accepting the endless struggle is transcending it, because you stop seeing it as something to overcome and start seeing it as part of who you are. The struggle is no longer suffering. It becomes your nature. Gohan begins to understand this. He accepts that there will always be challenges, always difficult moments, but he also understands that this constant struggle is what strengthens him. Every morning, he doesn't fight the fact that he must wake up early or complete his tasks. He simply does them, because now he understands that continuous practice is the path. The Void Ring teaches that the pursuit of discipline will never become easy, And that is the beauty of the process. Musashi painted every day, not to become a great artist, but because for a warrior, daily practice is the true nature of the path. Gohan accepts that the fight against mediocrity is endless, and by accepting this, he frees himself from the idea that one day everything will be easy. Instead, he embraces the idea that the journey of self-discovery and improvement never ends, and by doing so, he becomes truly disciplined. Now that you understand Musashi's principles, the question is, are you ready to begin? Each of the 5 rings plays a fundamental role in building unshakable discipline, but the journey is never easy and never ends. As Gohan learned, the fight against mediocrity and distraction is a continuous battle. However, true discipline does not come from overcoming external obstacles, but from how you respond internally. Musashi knew that true greatness does not come from momentary victories or external achievements, but from constant practice and daily improvement. The struggle is part of the process, and discipline must be cultivated every day, in every choice, in every action. It doesn't matter if you're a beginner or advanced. The fight against your own limits is never won. It is overcome day after day with humility, flexibility, and focus. Just like Gohan, you can be transformed by this journey. By applying the principles of the earth, water, fire, wind, and void rings, you will begin to realize that the process itself is the purpose. Discipline is not a destination, it is the path. So, what will you choose to do now? Are you ready to begin your journey? Remember, the struggle never ends, but that's what makes the journey toward discipline so powerful and rewarding. If you're ready to take the next step and go deeper on this path of self-transformation, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have much more content like this, with practical tips and powerful philosophies to help you reach the level of discipline you've been seeking.